Well, hey, howdy, hey, guys! Today I thought I'd do a little speed animation video, but instead of just doing a speed animation video where I just put music over it, I thought I'd kind of go over my animation process and explain what I'm doing as you watch me quickly do it. Because actually I work this fast, so this is not sped up at all, it's just all in time. 100%. Kid, obviously. This is completely unscripted, so if you hear me go into various and uhs, I apologize. I'm trying to think. But yeah, so here is Animating Lynn for episode 4. Awesome. We love Lynn. He's great. I know a lot of people don't like him, obviously, because he's kind of a grump, but I love him. He's my favorite. So typically what I do is I start off with my sketch layer, trying to get the poses and the animation down specifically. So right here, you can see I'm animating a keyframe or a key pose that he goes to. So he goes from the shocked look to getting smacked in the face, which is what is happening in the scene. So typically what I do is I draw the two poses, and then after I have the two poses, I connect them with in-between frames. So this frame that I'm drawing right here, if I stop playing on Discord for 8 seconds, I have a smear frame. So he kind of like drags his face over, so his hair kind of like gets stuck. Oh, excuse me. His hair kind of gets stuck and going the opposite direction because he's moving really quickly. And his ears kind of fling over because he's got to go from having his both ears on both sides of his head to having one ear on the other side of the head. So yeah, so that's typically what I do. So I just finished the sketch layer there, so there's actually camera movement for this particular bit because I'm trying to indicate that something is flying towards his face and hitting him. If you guess what hits him in the face, you get a cookie! Yay! Cookies. So here I'm trying to mess with the, the position of the camera, which you see in that little bar graph there, because I was having trouble with trying to keep the frame consistent. So this is me just playing with it, and then half of me animating is just me trying to fix it until it works. And if it doesn't work, we cry and restart. And that's typically how the animation process goes. Just do things until it works. Yeah, so after doing the sketch layer and animating the camera layer, I quickly hit the button. There's a button on the top left-hand corner of my screen that stabilizes the camera so that I don't have to deal with camera movement while I go to line art, which is my least favorite part of animating because it takes a really long time, and it's pretty tedious, honestly. You just go over your sketch layers and your line art, and that's pretty much self-explanatory from that point. Lynn is particularly annoying to animate. I love animating him. He's particularly annoying to line art because he's got so many different elements about him. He's got his weird chest floof, he's got that weird detective vest that I put him in, the police vest. It's supposed to be like one of those police things, like, because detectives typically wear suits and ties, they don't typically wear the standard police uniform, but they still have to be armed because they're still officers of the law, so they have like this weird holster that goes around their chest. I don't know, I'm basing my information off of the show Psych, which is a big inspiration for my show. If you haven't seen the show, it's hilarious. It's kind of like Scooby-Doo, but with more comedy. And it's like if Sherlock and Scooby-Doo had a baby. It's a great show. Highly recommend. But yeah, so I'm just line arting the keyframes. Every now and then you might notice that I go and change the sketch layer, or my line art isn't exactly similar to that of the line art or the sketch layer, because I typically like to fix things in my line art layer. I like to keep things very loose and sketchy in the sketch layer. And then once I go to the line art phase, which in normal animation terms I believe is the cleanup phase, make it more clean and flow better. So that's typically what I'm doing here. You'll also notice that I'm not line arting his mouth for now, and that's because I find it easier to line art the mouth after I'm done with all of the important line work sections. I don't know, it's just something that's been easier for me to do, because animating that mouth is usually pretty difficult. Also, I usually lip sync last, but he's not talking in this scene, so you won't see me lip sync him. So typically I do the color layer, and then I lip sync. And right here, I like to make my animations pretty bouncy, so you'll notice that I'm tracing over the previous frame. I turn the sketch layer off and I'm just tracing the previous frame. And the reason I do that is because it helps settle into the pose, which is like one of the 12 fundamentals of animation. I believe there's a video on YouTube about it. I can link it down below if you're interested. It's a really great video, and it really helps me when I'm animating to think about these 12 things, because it really makes your animations look more smooth and more fluid and more realistic. Or not like realistic, but like the movements look better in a way. Yeah, so I highly recommend watching that video. It's really helpful if you're interested in animation. But settling is a really important part of animation, and by retracing the frame, it helps give it a little bit of a bounce so that it stabilizes into that frame, so it doesn't just come to a complete stop. But yeah, so that's typically why I retrace those frames again, which is totally cool. But yeah, I'm not sure what else to talk about while I finish the rest of this liner. It's up. Yeah, see, there's me doing it again. Poor Lynn. Poor Lynn. Not really, he kinda deserves it. Every now and then he gotta knock some sense into people, am I right? But yeah, Lynn is really fun to animate, but he's a pain in the butt to line art because he's got so many weird elements, like his gloves and his police vest thing. Yeah, okay, and then here is where I go back and add his mouth. Lynn's mouth is also pretty complicated because I gave him a broken jaw and a scar. I was gonna make the scar more complicated on Lynn's face, but he was already so complicated because of all of his stripes and his masks and his weird detective belt thing that I decided, you know what, screw it, it's just a line. We're just gonna make it a line. It's gonna be 8 times easier to deal with than having another color for him. So he basically got stitches is my argument for that. He got stitches. Yeah, so here is Lynn, me coloring him. So Lynn usually takes the longest to color because he's got like a bunch of different colors, and I try when designing my characters to have 5 colors be the limit, and then just reuse those colors, so the same blue that's on his police thing is the same blue as his gloves, the same yellow that's on the belts are the same color as his eyes, the same blackish gray that's on his face mask are the same color as his guns that kind of look like bricks. They're supposed to be guns. He's got 2 of them. I'm sorry, I am lazy. I also don't know how to draw guns, so that is my defense on that. Yeah, so when designing my characters, I tend to like to reuse colors so that I'm not trying to juggle 84 elements in a given time. I also think it makes it more cohesive, just personal preference. Yeah. And you'll probably also notice that I changed the way that I did his fur pattern for this episode. So in previous episodes, what I did is that I just took his, like, the part where, his paws and his tail used to be just squiggly lines, and I wouldn't care about whether or not the squiggly lines were consistent from frame to frame. And rewatching it really bugs the crap out of me, and it annoys me, and I wish I didn't do that, so I changed it, so now they're just straight zigzags, and it's much easier to keep consistent now, than having just random squiggly lines. I know nobody's gonna notice that, but now everyone's gonna notice that I pointed it out. It's just a personal thing that bugs the crap out of me, so I changed it. There is one scene, because I already animated it before I decided to make this change in the 4th episode, that will have the squiggly lines, but that's okay. But yeah, so that's typically what I do to animate. You'll probably notice every now and then I like color the wrong thing. For some reason yesterday when I recorded this, it was being very laggy, and I don't know why. Like, I would select the color, but it wouldn't select the color, and so I'd have to reselect the color. It was annoying, but yeah. So that is my animation process and what I do. Hopefully I didn't talk too fast. I have a bad habit of doing that. I also want to make sure that I'm keeping up with the speed of my video here. Probably slow it down. But if this kind of explanation style interests you, maybe I could do it again sometime. I just thought it would be fun to kind of talk about what I do. because that Scarlet video was really fun to make on the step-by-step process, and so I feel like me kind of explaining what I do would be really fun. And that's it. So thanks so much for watching, and I hope you all have a great rest of your day. See ya!